Good day, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you find yourself. Welcome to our level two of our mindset and beliefs. And this is for our variety approach. And so we've gone through our reset, we've worked on our achievable goals and the foundations of those, and you've done a little bit of work on the mindset and your beliefs. Hopefully, we're starting to realize which directions we can shift those beliefs. Today, we're going to go over a variety approach to how we're looking at our mindsets and our beliefs, and specifically in the ways that we think will really help and benefit you as we're moving towards the autonomy, but also as you understand and learn about your lifestyle and how you can always factor in variety into your life. Firstly, when we thinking about variety, um, we're going to talk about two things firstly. Okay. So there are two things that can't exist without the other. Okay. And so being who you are now and becoming who you want to be. Being versus becoming. The process of becoming who you want to be, you compare how you lack now to an ideal version which drives you to improve. That's generally how most of us think about who who and what we want to become and what we are looking to achieve. So we assume a lot of the times that there is no becoming who we want to be that is enjoyable. And so this is very important for us to start thinking about differently. Or we assume that if we just focus on being right now, being who we are, then we are not going to become who we want to be. Now these are false ways of looking at it. But if one can't exist without the other, then there's no real difference. But we have gotten stuck in an interesting place, most people, where we're trying to avoid constantly being who we are because we're after something that we want to become, someone else we want to be. And now we're looking at that ideal version of ourselves and we compare how we lack now to that ideal version. And that is what's driving us to improve. Now, that's a very good way a lot of the times to help motivate us towards our goals, right? There's things that we don't like about our life and things that we know we want to improve on. And so these we feel like, okay, we lack these things, and the ideal version is what we are aiming for. But something we don't tend to think about often is the things that we lack now, generally to us, that's a difficult thing to work on. And so if we're always looking at, I only want to become this other person, this other version of myself, then we tend to only look at that being a very difficult thing to achieve because the thing we compare that to is by all the ways we lack now, all the things that we don't have access to, all the things we're struggling with. And that becomes very difficult because now you're already in a difficult situation, living an unhealthy life or making choices that lead to bad habits, and that's tough to break. And so if you're constantly looking at the ideal version and comparing that to everything you currently lack, you will only see the ideal version as something that's possible through pure misery. Okay, and that's what we don't want to look at. Okay, and so we want to have a variety approach to this. Um, and we're going to go into that, right? So we want to have these things come together more easily. Okay, and so again, if we assume that if we just focus on being, so let's say, okay, we will reach for our goals, but let's also just be here for a bit, right? Because this is a bit easier and we can enjoy the now. But then we are not going to become that person because now we're not working on the hard things. So these are false ways of looking at it because there's no real difference between these two. And if we're only living in one of these, we're going to get stuck and we're not going to find a way through. Okay. So if we look at a cognitive superposition, which is applying to cognition in this case, in cognitive science, the idea is that our minds can entertain multiple interpretations of a situation. It can hold conflicting ideas, or waver between choices before settling on a single course of action. But we tend to steer towards not trying to hold conflicting ideas and assessing them for what they really are. We only sometimes take emotion and just think about the becoming, and what we want to be and all the good things we are after. And then we don't actually hold the reality of what our life is like now as a conflicting idea to what we want to actually be. And then we tend to just live in a very one-dimensional way of thinking. So we want to have some variety in how we look at this so that we can both be here now while we aim towards who we want to become. Okay. So two focus points for us. Number one, we want to choose what we do that's enjoyable. Okay. Enjoyment is so, so, so important if you want to have success in not just this plan, but also in living a healthy lifestyle. I mean, eventually you need to enjoy it, right? Like, what are we doing here? Is this just going to be a freaking challenge forever? We also want to, number two, learn to enjoy what we do. Choose what we do that's enjoyable and learn how to enjoy what we do. How can you not change any part of the process, but enjoy it more? This is a question that has helped me a lot because it helps me ask certain questions about whatever situation I find myself in. And it really has helped me see things a bit differently because a lot of the times I am very in my head and in a different place and not just trying to enjoy the situation right now. And it just leads to more anxiety. And so if you can learn and ask yourself the question of how can you not change any parts of the process, but just enjoy it more? It's not always easy at first. It's a little bit of discomfort that you need to push through because you need to see something differently and you need to see where your ego is trying to protect you before you can do that, which is not always easy. Other question is, how do I do things in a way that is enjoyable? How do I choose to do things that is more enjoyable, right? How do I choose to look at situations? How do I choose to see things differently? And this comes back to a lot of the stuff we went through before. There's a story that we need to change about how we see certain things. All of us have some flawed perception of most things in our life, and that's okay. None of us are ever going to have a perfect way of looking at things. But if you accept that, it means you can always question yourself and try and see it a little differently. Okay. Or how could I enjoy the process more but maintain progress? So the goal is still for us to see progress at the end of the day, right? But we don't want to always have to change a lot of stuff to do that. And there are ways we can try and approach that. Okay. You can't do only what you enjoy. If you only do things that are enjoyable, then you are damned. That's just avoidance. You need to learn how to engage in a process where you choose things that you can enjoy in a way that struggles become more enjoyable to you and while not changing too many things at the same time. Because we can't just go and choose how, like everything we enjoy and we enjoy. That slowly will go towards now us just in avoiding the things that are going to be challenging, the things that have to be challenging right now because we don't have access to those skills yet. So, like I said, you'll need to learn how to engage in the process where you choose things you can enjoy in a way that struggles become more enjoyable. The struggles have to become more enjoyable eventually, right? If you look at someone who finds living a healthy life easy, like it's not been always that easy, but there's a way that these struggles have been worked on and became more enjoyable. Okay, so the more we can enjoy these struggles, the easier this process is going to be long term, right? So remember, you'll never be able to enjoy every aspect of life. That's just life, okay? And so we can't enjoy everything, but we can most of the time choose where we can try and enjoy things more, okay? If you're avoidant of things you don't enjoy, it's toxic. The solution is to learn how to enjoy what's happening right now. If we can learn to just enjoy the present moment a little bit more, we'll be able to work through this struggle the way we are now a little bit easier and long term learn the skills to enjoy everything a lot more. Okay. So I'll give you a dustbin example. And so if you tell yourself, well, I'm only going to do things that I enjoy, and you go and stand in front of the dustbin and it's full and it's smelly and you don't want to take out the trash and you just don't want to throw out the bin and you just leave it because you're like, well, I'm only going to do things that I enjoy, right? But then you realize, well, okay, I need to live here and this thing is going to be in my way. This is going to become a problem. So I kind of have to find a way that I can enjoy this, right? Instead of only looking for things that I think I will enjoy doing, how can I start looking at the situation right in front of me and figure out by just doing the same thing, which is taking out the trash, how can I enjoy that process a bit more? And so now you can just look at it differently and be like, well, if I take out the trash right now, like immediately, the smell is gone immediately. Immediately, there's going to be space for me to clean up and get rid of things and feel better. And all you've really done is just chosen enjoyment in a situation that normally is presented to you as a struggle. This is tough, however, and this is just an example, but it does show us a bit about how we choose to believe the situation is presented to us is the most important thing. And you can choose. You can choose to enjoy something and not change much about it. Okay? Just by how you are seeing it and also how you see this current situation and your future expectations that you have. Okay? So one of the best ways of enjoying a process is by not believing there's an end. This thing that we're always looking as becoming who we want to be. Okay? There's no end to this thing. If you believe you will lose the weight and at the end you will be happy, then you will not get there because you can't, like, we can't sell you an end to anything. There's just a choice about how you want to spend your time and how you want to enjoy it. And this is something that is very difficult because you know your life will be better if you move towards the goal, but you can't move towards the goal any other way other than just moving today. If I move today in any direction that is headed towards the goal, in line with just being present with the process now, then I will eventually get towards the goal. And like we mentioned before, you're never going to get to the goal. You're going to get to something much more beautiful. Okay? And so your expectations are flawed right from the get-go. But they are shooting you in a direction. Okay? But if you just stop focusing on that, there's going to be an end where I'll be happy, you will learn to find ways to enjoy the process a bit more. Okay? So again, we've gone through resets. We have had a hard look at our lifestyle and been like, well, things need to look differently going forward, things we need to work on, and we want to enjoy that process as much as we can. Okay. If you really do not enjoy one little aspect of this plan that you're in right now, not going to work out very good for you long term. You might see some results, but you're not going to make long-term shifts in your life. And that's why we are here trying to work on how do we make this approach a little bit more enjoyable, right? Because that's essentially why we want variety in life, right? Enjoy things differently. If you're going to have the same ice cream tonight and tomorrow and forever, okay, you're eventually going to get bored of this thing, and then hence you want some variety, and we want to make things more enjoyable. So again, one of the best ways of enjoying a process is by not believing there's an end. Okay. Efficiency is a great way to measure enjoyment. Okay. And an example, if you drive a fast car, you don't call it an efficient car. An efficient car is one that gets you from point A to point B, expanding the least amount of energy. Therefore, efficiency is not speed. If you can find a way to actively engage in the involvement of the process in a way where you come out with more energy and enjoyment, that's efficiency. So we want to make enjoyment the priority. And so again, you'll have to just look at the current plan you have ahead of you, and you need to start choosing ways that you can enjoy this more and start telling yourself a different story. Okay? Because if you're not enjoying any little bit of it, a very inefficient way of looking at things, right? This is saying in a war with yourself, you will always lose. And this is one of those situations where if you're not enjoying any aspect of your life or any aspect of challenging yourself or any aspect of evolution and growth, like what are you doing? Like you're just going to be fighting yourself. Okay. You want to look at enjoyment and the efficiency that that creates in your life. Okay. So here's an idea. I am not the finished product. So I'm not who I want to become yet. Therefore, my low self-esteem and subconscious self-hatred is assuaged. So assuage implies a softening or sweetening what is harsh. In this case, my low self-esteem and the subconscious self-hatred, right? So if I'm not the finished product, therefore there's a softening of this harsh feeling that I'm having. Okay. If I'm not the finished product, I'm trying to always look for ways of softening my low self-esteem in this situation specifically, for example. And what this does is you are not looking at your life right now in the present moment clearly because you are having to kind of blur what you are seeing because you are so focused just on the finished product that you can't really experience what's happening and you can't see the real story that you're telling yourself. Okay. And so this needs to be thought about a bit differently. Okay. So I want you to answer this. Okay. You need to write this down. I'll put it down below the video so that you have access to it as well. How can I look at the actions I need to take and choose which ones, if made easier, will allow me more energy to focus on the ones that can't be made easy? Because in life, some things we just can't change. Okay? It's not always easy. How can I find enjoyment in the things that are more important to me and allocate more mental capacity to the things I can't change? Because at the end of the day, there's things that are out of your control that you need to deal with. You can't change those things, but you still have to deal with it. But you might be better off if you have a bit more capacity for those, you should make the other ones a bit easier. And that's what I'm getting at here. Okay. So again, how can I look at the actions I need to take and choose which ones, if made easier, will allow me more energy? Focus on the ones that can't be made easier. How can I find enjoyment in the things that are more important to me and allocate more mental capacity to the things I can't change? So here's an example. Okay. If I put more effort into tracking my food and only eating out once a month, I could eat more things that I enjoy all the time by avoiding any big meals where the nutrition is out of my control. And I can see more steady progress day to day while enjoying the foods that I like. So I can just have more variety. I can enjoy every day. And I'm just going to avoid things that are out of my control. Now, here's the pros. I get to eat foods that help me feel good and provide more fulfillment day to day. And I don't feel like I'm just restricting over the top, okay? And I can still see progress consistently. That just seems great, right? Remember, it's an example. I choose the story I want to live by and not the one I used to believe. The one I used to believe was, oh, no, I need to socialize. I need to go out with a lot of people. I need to do all these things. And, oh, like this is coming up and that. Like, no, I can choose what story I want to believe. And I might have to separate certain parts of my life. But if I put more effort into tracking my food, and only eating out once a month, I could just enjoy every day so much more, right? Now, this example is coming from myself, but it's an example. It's me. Okay. It's what works for me. Okay. That's the pros. The cons. I need to give up eating out as often. Okay. Fine. I need to cook all my food at home or buy things that I can put on a scale, measure, track, or only eat things that I can weigh and accurately track the calories. Planning ahead will require effort, but I'll give up some things so that I can have more enjoyment where it is important to me. Over time, I will see the progress, not feel overwhelmed, and realize the things I gave up were actually just adjustments that felt right to me and made me enjoy the process more. And I didn't need to overindulge because I always chose to do what felt good and never found myself in a place of lack, but rather just being. I'm going to read this again. Over time, I will see the progress, not feel overwhelmed, and realize the things I gave up were actually just adjustments that felt right to me. And this is so important, right? Sometimes it's very difficult to make adjustments that feel right to you because you're always running on thoughts that other people put into your head. You haven't actually tried things. Now you have. You've tried the reset. You've figured out, geez, this one thing that everyone seems to be doing easily for me, the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. I need to look at this a bit differently. And hence, if you go back, how can I look at the things that, if made easier, will allow the things that are out of my control or extremely difficult to have a bit more mental capacity to deal with and energy for those. This is an example, right? So I'll still see the progress. I won't feel overwhelmed. And the things that I gave up, that's not the story I'm thinking anymore. I just chose what to do, what's right for me. And other people are gonna say what they have to say. Like, doesn't matter. It's me, it's variety in my lifestyle, and this is how we want you to think about it as well. Okay? So this will help us move essentially from a place of lack now, comparing that to being the difficult process to go through to become who we want to be, and get rid of that thinking because all we want to look at is really, well, how do I just enjoy the process of life? Some things are easy, some things are hard, very unique to you. And how can we make progress and look at the actions we need to take and start allocating effort in directions where we need it most? Because for all of us, it's different. And so as you incorporate variety, it's not just because, oh, I can't eat chicken every evening. I need to eat like something else. Like, no, be honest. What is it? What's hard about that? Like, how can you look at the big picture and use variety to channel your energy, your mental capacity, your your resources and effort in a way that things that you think you can, difficult things that you think you can do easier, you can use as a strength so you can put more emphasis on the other ones. Okay. So again, coming back to this example of if I put more effort into tracking my food and only eating out once a month. For me, this is an example because if I restrict, this is me personally, if I restrict my calories and I only eat very specific foods all the time, when it does come to the weekend, I am prone to just overindulge and go crazy. Okay. Whereas now with a lot of time and effort, I've gotten to a point where I still eat the same thing every day, funny enough, but um, things that I enjoy. Okay. I still make good choices. I make sure the protein and the macros and all these things and nutrient rich foods, but I still have snacks. Like I still eat chocolate. Like this has taken time though. Okay. But that process for me, in a way that I can still see progress and just avoid the weekend completely and then just keep going straight through it, just live my life. That's made it easier for me because the hardest part for me was going to that social event too often and having to think about the mental capacity to do it. Now, when I get there, I'm just so in control that I don't even feel the need anymore because now I haven't been playing out of avoidance. Just chosen something different. If I do end up in that social occasion or that social place, choice is easy because I want to be there. I do want to be there. I do want to engage with that. And we've got other strategies that we use to help us with social occasion. But again, like all of this, it's variety for you. Okay. It's very tough for us to just say, oh, you want variety? Okay, here's a different meal plan. You know, you need to, as we said in the previous section, you need to communicate and give feedback because it's so unique to you, and you need to be honest about that. Let's think about not coming from a place of lack and move towards rather just being in a place where things happen a little bit smoother in our lives and in ways that are unique to us. And that's what we want you to think about and how you're looking at your mindset and your beliefs around the variables of life essentially and how we can incorporate a lifestyle that we can be a bit more present with, move towards the goal, move to towards who we want to become, but start not just seeing everything as, oh, this is just difficult process and enjoy it a little bit more. Okay. So I'm excited to hear from you guys and see what feedback we get from you. And again, I'll put the question down below. You can go through this again. And I really, really hope you can keep learning about these stories you tell yourself and create some new ones and enjoy the process a little bit more. Okay, so have a beautiful rest of your day and we'll catch up soon.